here in Anambra is better, way better than that in Lagos. But who knows what will happen in Abuja? The spirit hasn't told me whether I'll get more engagement in Abuja or maybe Anambra will lead. But at the moment, Anambra is leading. Who knows when I get to Kano? Maybe there will be more engagement in Kano because they will give me fura. All right, so that's on the lighter note. Today, like I said, to us yesterday, today will be for practical. You see that I'm not wearing suits. I told you, it's casual today. It's fire for fire. The way that I want to start is we'll be in table groups, and then we'll be running through a case study today. But this is my Oga, for example, switched sides and is there. So you want to join a table group if you think that you don't have enough people on your table groups, and the more people come, the more they will join those groups. But yeah, but if you're comfortable, going at it alone, you're an engineer, you also do a bit of finance, everything in one. You alone, you are stakeholders. So, but if you want to join another table, that's fine as well. And then finally, I promise you, we'll be out of here early today because some of us have flights to catch. A prophet has no home. That prophet goes from Lagos to Anambra, back to Lagos, to Abuja, to Kano, to Lagos, to London, and then back to Toronto. So, even I have to get out of here early. But like I said to you yesterday, because we're trying to, be timely, does not mean that we will not go through everything that we have to go through. I'll ensure that we do not sacrifice, quality on the altar of timeliness. All right, let's get into it. So we started out by making the case for why a business plan matters. We said a business plan matters for 4 reasons. The first one is that it helps to clarify your vision. Hi, Samuel, how are you doing? The forestry guy. We said it helps to clarify your vision, but not only does it clarify your vision, more importantly, it helps to articulate your plan in a way that funders understand. All right, so we said that it helps to clarify your vision in a way that funders understand. And so when you go to my Oga there at BOI and you want to go and collect money, you want to ensure that you're taking documents that he understands to me. Else, remember what we said yesterday, that even though it looks very nice, the nicest thing he will do to you when you give him a document that doesn't clarify your vision and articulate it in a way that he understands is that he will nicely give it back to you and say, maybe go downstairs to go and collect your own money, right? That it's not that BOI that will give you money. And so for that reason, we said that a business plan is important because you articulate your plan in a way, or at least a well-written business plan. Let me not say a good business plan, a well-written business plan is important because it helps to clarify your vision in a way that funders understand. The other thing, and I sort of repeated this a number of times, is that it guides implementation. Now, too often I've seen plans that are lengthy but do not have implementation section. And by implementation section, I said that you need to articulate what you're doing, who is responsible for it, what timelines, and what key milestones you want to achieve, right? And that one of the reasons is beyond even collecting money. It's because you don't want a situation where you write a plan, get the funding, and then go and meet, for example, the engineering team and say, implement such and such. And what they will say to you is that you never carried us along, you wrote your own plan. Right? And so you don't want a situation where people do not feel accountable. You want people to be accountable, and as such, you need to write an implementation plan. And in writing an implementation plan, you are forced to think about those who would execute and start engaging them and engaging them early. After that, we said that a business plan matters because it unlocks financing. Well, how does it unlock financing? Remember, if you write a business plan in a language that funders understand, it means that you're closer to getting financing than someone who wrote a plan, or someone who does not have a plan, or someone who wrote a plan that is not properly articulated. And then finally, we said business plans help to connect all the dots. What do we mean? We said that a business plan, a well-written business plan would help you, number one, it will talk about everything from marketing to industry, to the problem, to the sustainability angle, to both values and value. Everything will be encapsulated in a business plan or in a well-written business plan. And as such, a business plan is important. And you see that fancy-looking chart there. Consultants like to see this page is enough. I said, that place will look like there's nothing on this thing. So I put picture. So it looks like there's a lot of things on this slide. Well, all of this is just encapsulated in there. You have an RECP idea, or you have an IE idea, or a project. You take everything, you transform it into a bankable business plan or a proposal, and what that happens is that it turns out to funding, and because it's not just funding, collecting money is not the end of the world. Remember that Mr. Ladipo mentioned yesterday that after we give you this money, I even trust my bros there, we will still come and check. Maybe you just wrote a fancy business plan because you came to this training and you know how to write business plan, and you now collect that money and you go and give it to, maybe you go and marry another wife. Or G-Wagon now has started entering your eyes. You go and buy G-Wagon and be polluting all the environment again with money that you collected for sustainability. Or you take that money and actually spend it on your company, but you not spend it on the thing that you said you want to spend it on. Maybe use it to hire new staff. The receptionist that you chased before, and you remember that engineer, CTO that you chased before, you collect the money and you can use it to recruit the receptionist and the chief engineer. So not only does this unlock funding, we also want to, it's supposed to unlock for impact as well. And I recall, even though I can't find Michael in my class this morning, Michael is the impactful man. He's the one that is focused on impact. So I hope when we give Michael money, because he's not in class now, that he will not use the money to go and buy G-Wagon, because he's a very stylish guy. You saw him with his turtleneck yesterday. Maybe him with his new shop, fashion store that he will go and use the money to open. Alright, so we said what are the building blocks of a bankable plan? I remember that one of my workers yesterday said, no, actually, I believe he was doctor, that said to me, what if executive summary is the only thing that they've requested first? How can you say to me that executive summary is the last thing that you should write? But praise be to God that there is a professor in this class, and the professor helped us to answer the question. So when we're talking about the building blocks of a business plan, we said ordinarily what you must have seen in the past is that it starts with an executive summary, and rightly so. And then you go into what the problem is, you describe the solution. You talk about the market, regulatory, competitive, supply chain context. After that, again, this implementation plan thing that I keep hammering on. And then we then get into financial strategy. And I said, please, our accountants in the house, when we say financial strategy, we are not saying financial metrics alone. We said that it should actually be a strategy. How do you intend to raise the money? How does the funding plan fit into the actual business plan that you have written? And then we said that you should get into risk, but not only risk, but also mitigation strategy. Because if you list out risk and you do not tell us how you would mitigate it, what you've simply done is to tell us the reason why the plan will not work. And so when you write out your risk section, not only should you list out the risk section, you should also include what the mitigation plan and strategy is. We even said that some people will say that there's foreign exchange risk, but they will not tell us how they intend to mitigate that risk. And my BOI brother said to me, if someone comes to him and says there's foreign exchange risk, and they do not tell him how they will mitigate that risk, like my brother wants to go to Germany to go and collect the equipment without thinking that it is euros that he will pay and not naira. Well, what you simply told us is the reason why the plan will not work. So whenever you put risk in, you list out your risk, please ensure that you also include what the mitigation strategy will be. And then finally, we then get to executive summary. We said the reason why it's important to write the executive summary last is because a summary The bros that defined summary for us yesterday hasn't come to class just yet. It's the guy who said we should use cardboard and not sticker. Or, what's that one again that we said yesterday? Signage. He said we can use sticker. In fact, he even volunteered marker because he already was wearing 2 pen in his native. His blue and red biro is a teacher. He wants to be marking script. So we said the reason why the executive summary should come last is because a summary by its very definition is taking a body of work and then putting it in a short form. And so how can you summarize something that you have not written? And we said that in order to clarify this, we're not saying that the executive summary should come last in the document. We said, in fact, it's correct that it should be the first thing in the document because funders, more often than not, will start by reading the summary before they go and read the details. Management, more often than not, they don't have the time to read 100 pages in a plan. They will start by reading the executive summary. Now, if anything jumps out to them in the executive summary, the back of the document, go and look at the details. And so your executive summary, it's important that it touches on every single part of this. For example, you can say that here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the technical, just 2 lines of what the technical solution, description of the solution is. This is what's happening in markets today. Here's where we source the equipment from. Here's how we intend to implement it. This is the amount that we need. We'll raise it through debt, and we've thought about our risk. Full stop. So the executive summary should touch on each one of these, but in a succinct manner, in a summarized manner, in a short form. Now, we've said it is executive summary. We did not say it is executive story, because again, I've seen executive summaries that are like 5 pages in a business plan. Now, that's not to say that you'll notice that for every single section, I have not given you what the length or the ideal length should be, because it's always context specific. There are certain funders, like you were mentioning yesterday, that will even describe what they want to see in the executive summary or even in the page itself. Some funders will say, just give me a 20-page plan. Some would say, go to town and be detailed about it. What's important and what's critical is that these sections are captured in the plan. We then dug into each one of the only thing Anambra does not have is a clicker that I should be using. So we've identified a problem. We should talk about the solution and how we fund the purchase. And what's the risks that are involved in not having a clicker in class? I suspect that Abuja, the spirit has told me now that I suspect that Abuja would have a clicker. When I get there and they have, I'll try to send message back to Anambra that even if it's not in the engagement, at least in the equipment, because mic did not work, speaker did not work, laptop is not charging. And to think that this is the place that I think that the best equipment will be in. Okay, so now we've gone to the problem statement. I said that to help us remember a lot of these things, I have adopted the McKinsey strategy of doing 3 points. So in our problem statement, because 3 is a magic number, if you say it's 2, it might look too short. Once it's above 3, it's starting to look too long and people might forget. And so I said that there are 3 things that are important that should be part of your problem statement. We said that the first thing is that you should define what the challenge is. That almost goes without saying. You've got to describe what the problem or the challenge that you're facing is, or that you've identified is. After that, you want to talk about what the costs or risks are of maintaining the status quo. And then finally, we said you should outline the opportunity for savings. Sometimes this part is almost embedded in the statement itself, such that it's not like you outrightly write out the savings, but by saying yes, the cost, you almost know that here's what we'll be saving if we solve the problem. Because I've had people ask me that, oh, but I've written a problem, but I don't know what to write in the savings. Sometimes it's embedded once you talk about what the cost or risk is of maintaining the status quo. And then I said I gave an example. So I gave an example of a problem statement yesterday, which we've written on the board, on the screen. We said the company currently spends 30 million naira annually on diesel generators due to grid unreliability, because PHCN cannot be trusted. That's what grid unreliability means, leading to elevated emissions and operating costs. So if we try to break that down into the three elements, the operational challenge is that, well, there is high diesel use due to grid unreliability. What's the cost or risk of maintaining the status quo? Well, currently, we spend 30 million naira annually on diesel alone. But we've said that in Nigeria, prices defy the law of gravity. And so this 30 million that we say we currently spend annually, because in Nigeria, everything that goes up, rather than come down, it keeps going up. We said that as we suspect, even when we say we currently spend 30 million naira annually, we might even include with the potential for increase, in this pricing. After that, we then said, well, what's the opportunity for savings? Well, we can save cost and emissions reduction. You'll see that in this case, it's embedded in the statement itself, because we said, well, this leads to elevated emissions and operating costs. So implicitly, if we solve this problem, there will be cost savings and emissions reduction. Please stop me at any point if you have any question. I'm not professor. No, not doctor. Because doctor always asks hard questions. But I came prepared for people like you. And my cheat code, is that I have people like Mommy, professor in this class, that will answer any tough question that doctors like you. All right, so we said for solution, again, that magic number 3. We said a solution should have a solution statement should have 3 elements. The first is that it should describe the solution. That goes without saying, right? But then, importantly, beyond just describing the solution, we said that it should include technical elements of the solution, especially if this is a technical solution. And I make that distinction because if your solution is posting signage, number one, I don't even see the reason why you should go to BOI to go and collect money to post cardboard. But let's use it as an example. That, for example, is not a technical solution. So there's no technical element to that. You literally just need to go downstairs, buy cardboard, collect free marker from this our bros, write it. The engineer that knows how to do lecturing, write it, and halas, you're done, right? And so if there's a technical element to the solution that you want to raise money for, you should please get into the technical approach or what the process change that is being proposed is. The caveat we put is that you want to get as detailed as possible about the technical approach, but not too detailed to the point where my BOI bros is wondering whether you've written Spanish or whether you've written Japanese. And so we've said that sometimes the solution is just really technical and you have to put it there, and it is, on the BOI team or the funding team to go and look for a specialist like this, my engineer bros, they are paying free money, side money, to interpret what you've written in the technical document. So this is not to say that if the item is really technical, you shouldn't put the technical elements in there. I'm just saying that you should find the right balance between just going to town about the technical detail or actually explaining what the elements are. And then finally, we said that this isn't complete if you do not talk about the alignment with RECP principles there. You want to talk about whether it helps to save emissions or whatever it is that this helps us to achieve. Remember, RECP, we said it's resource efficiency, the efficient utilization of resources. We said not just any type of resources, we said that it is specific resources like energy, water, etc. And so we said that you want to explain what the alignment with the RECP principle is. And the solution statement that we included here is, a sample solution statement is installing a waste heat recovery system on the boiler fuel will allow for preheating processed water, thereby reducing fuel demand by 25%. It encapsulates the description of the solution, the technical approach, and how it aligns with RECP principle. The third element is the market and regulatory context. We said that it's not enough for you to describe the problem, it's not enough for you to describe the solution and the technical element of the solution. So if there are competitors, for example, that are already using the solution, you want to describe what the competition is doing. If the competitors are not doing it already, you want to describe how this gives you competitive advantage over your competitors. You also want to talk about what the environmental regulations are today in the space. So for example, if there are certain taxes you have to pay, or there are taxes that this solution will help you to avoid, you want to include that in the statement. And then we said finally that a critical piece as well is to talk about the supply chain or customer pressures to decarbonize or demonstrate sustainability. So for example, there's my bros there that wants to go to Germany. You want to talk about what the supply chain is for sourcing solar panels today. If you want to get solar panels, for example, you might want to talk about how, well, one place to source it from is from China, another place can be Germany, another place can be in Onitsha here. You want to talk about all of those elements. This implementation plan, I keep talking about it because I keep seeing plans without an implementation element. It's why it looks like I keep hammering it, because too many consultants will write business plans that are fancy, 100 pages, without an implementation element. So that magic number 3 again. The first thing is that you want to ask yourself, are we going to deploy this solution in-house, or do we need to go externally to solve it? And I advised that if you want to use an external consultant, you should come to someone like me. And then I remember that I corrected myself and said, no, don't come to someone like me, come to me. Because that way, at least if I charge this table 500 million, I charge that my Oga there 500 million. There's that bros there that I'm not sure I saw yesterday, I'll charge him 500 million. And I'll write a fantastic plan, an implementation plan for you. That's 1.5 billion. By the time you now come back, because I'll write you a 100-page plan, you will come back to me and say to me that you do not understand this plan. And I'll say to you that it's not a problem, I can help you execute the plan. But before that time, you must have paid me for cost overruns. The cost overruns will be somewhere around just 50 to 75 million. By the time we want to do implementation, I will say to you that because I wrote the plan, I can help you implement it easily. And so what I will charge you is just 200 million. But then I would also ask for out-of-pocket expenses. By the time I'm done in Anambra, I think I'll just carry my bags from Toronto and relocate back to Nigeria. Because what am I doing? What am I doing in Toronto? We can be collecting free 500 million. 500.
Talking about millions and billions. Those amounts are in
It's because by the time I convert it back to dollars,
okay, I see.
it will not be million again. It will just be 500 million naira is what now? Maybe 400,000 Canadian dollars. So you see that it's now 1,000 actually that I'm talking about.
Yeah, economists, how do we rectify this huge differential?
How do we rectify it?
Yes, this huge differential in our economic landscape.
That one, you would have to pay me 500 million. because that's consulting. And I don't do consulting for...
It's part of the exercise. You are consulted here. Yes, sir.
When I looked at man's proposal to me, it does not include foreign exchange risk rectification. The role of the central bank and the central bank governor is to do this thing that you just described to me. So if you want me to do central bank governor's work, you have to pay me central bank governors. You have to pay me what the CBN governor is earning for me to solve it.
Someone is asking you a question, like the ones they are doing, are they doing it the right way?
So you want me to comment on the operating effectiveness of the foreign exchange policy of the central bank governor? That comes at a cost. All right, so we said that you've got to decide whether you've got in-house capabilities for this, or you've got, you have to use technical partners, or you'll be both, right? See, Daddy was here in class, he was listening. He was the one that will answer my first question today. Just keep making the class, energetic. One of the things we'll also do is that we'll go and check whether the money we gave to them, they are using it for what they said they should do. I then abused you, and I'm not one of those people that say things behind people's back. So I said that I hope, because Michael is very stylish, I hope that when we give Michael the money, he will not go and use it to buy G-Wagon, or that he will not go and use that money to open a fashion store. What are the differences in the places that they've done it from the actual problem that we have? We said that they might have installed a particular thing for a smaller sized company, and that ours will be at scale, and because of that you want to ensure that you ask them the important question. Important question like, show me what you've done in the past. Alright, the next thing we said is that you want to ensure that you've got the site conditions and the operating environment to deploy the solution that you intend to deploy. We said that is the site accessible, and we gave the example yesterday about this interesting company that wants to implement solar, rooftop solar, but the surface area of their roof is smaller than the energy capacity that they need. And ultimately what they said was that solar doesn't carry everything in their factory. When in actual fact, what has happened is that they just did not have the sufficient surface area on their roof. And maybe they should not have done rooftop solar. Maybe they should have done something else, or maybe they should have found a backup for that. So you want to ensure that you've got enough space for the equipment you want to deploy. And then you also want to train your workforce if they don't have the requisite training for the new project. And then finally, we said that there should be a sample, this is a sample implementation timeline, and see what's involved. Again, 3 things. You want to say when the time is, what action it is that you're going to implement, and critically, who is going to be responsible for these things. That's where I was talking about accountability. That if I come to this, my boss, for example, after I've written plan, after I've done everything, and I'll say, take, this is what you will do. Most likely, because he's a very smart person, he will grumble at me and say, explain to me why I have to do this work when you did not carry me along from the beginning. And so when you're writing this, what this forces you to do is to think about what staff will be involved and will be needed to do the work, and that forces you to go and engage them early. And then finally, we said your implementation plan is not complete if you do not think about what sort of KPI, what metrics you want to track, because what is not monitored, whatever is not monitored, whatever is not documented is not done, right? And we gave the example yesterday about how it's possible for you to even get savings. So imagine that you're expending 5 million before, you deploy this process, you now expend only 3 million, and in your mind, you've gotten 2 million naira savings, when in actual fact, that solution has the potential to reduce your cost from 5 million to 1 million, right? And so we've said that it's important that you've got KPIs in place to monitor and track what you're doing. Another critical element is this commitment to transparency. Let's assume that BOI is not in the room right now, but they are, so, but I'll pretend like they're not in the room. You've got to be transparent at least to yourselves internally. If the solution is supposed to get you a 5 million naira savings, and when you deployed it, the only savings it's getting you is, for example, 2 million. You've got to at least look internally and be truthful with yourselves within the organization to say, why is this thing giving us only 2 million when they said that it has the potential to save us 5 million? Is it because we are not using it appropriately? Is it because the setting isn't right? Is it because is there something we are missing? Do we need to call back the external consultant if we used one to help us understand? Or is it because it's just early days, and as the more we use it, the better we'll get at it and we understand? You want to commit yourself to transparency, and we said this is the part where audit, even though all of us here don't like auditors, I'm the only auditor that we like. It's still important that you bring audits along on the journey. Alright, so on to financial strategy. I will not overflow this because we've said that for two reasons. Number one, we said that this best kept secret of bankers is debt sizing. How much should we give to this person that has walked into the bank and is requesting for money? That's at credit origination stage. The next best secret of bankers is the measurement of the credit risk. What's the risk that this person poses to our loan book? We said all those secrets that they think they've kept, we'll reveal those secrets when we come back in September. And so you notice sometimes that when you walk into the bank and you request for 50 million naira, is there a banker in the room apart from you? Right? Okay. If I walk up to you and I say to you, please, I need 50 million naira, are there instances where what you will say to me is only 30 million naira that we can give to you? Exactly. But why? Why would they say to you? And why 30? Why not 25? Why 30? Why not 40? You see that, doctor? I should make the point, by the way, that the evidence of a good facilitator is that by the time he or she is done, you would have raised other facilitators in the class. But here's the problem with that. You are likely going to collect my job. So September now, they will not tell me to come from Canada again. And so I would ensure that if you say credit worthiness, I'll find another thing to say. So they will say, he only knows the credit worthiness part of the answer. He doesn't know every single thing. All right, so we said that for funding strategy, there are two elements to it. That you want to talk about the funding request. How much exactly do we need? Where are we going to source it from? Will it be debt? Will it be equity? Will it be a mixture of both? And then we said after that, we go to that my auntie who is an accountant, who is going to build us the financial model. And we said very critically that the financial model should not just be an Excel exercise, that there should be a connection between the financial model that has been built and the business plan that has been written. We gave an example of this fantastic company that has written their business plan that they want to expand into 3 different markets. But when we went to check the financial model, there was nothing on marketing cost. There was no increment in marketing cost. Do you magically want to go into this market without marketing to them? Do you magically want to go into this new market without having staff there? So there has to be a connection between what you have written in the plan and what's in the financials, especially the forward-looking financial model. All right. And then finally, we have sample financial metrics. I will not spend any time here at all. You see, she's happy. She's seeing the language that she understands. This guy, for example, debt service coverage ratio is the secret of bankers, because debt service coverage ratio shows to you how much you can cover your principal and interest repayment. The example here is, there is a gentleman, he earns 30,000 naira every month. He walks up to the bank and says, please borrow me money. When they calculated the money, he will be repaying 50,000 naira every month. How can you earn 30,000 naira every month, but your principal and interest repayment from the loan that you want to collect will be 50,000 naira? And don't forget, even if principal and interest payment is 30,000 naira, would he not eat that month? Would he not pay rent? Would he not transport himself? When I asked the gentleman how you want to do this, he said the Lord will provide. Now, the Lord will provide is not a bad thing, but you can only say that in the church. You cannot say that to this my auntie that is a banker, or to that my bros that works in GUI. It's how the bankers decide how much they can give to. So the bankers, for example, would assume, and let's stick with the 30,000 naira example, because things are very affordable here in Anambra. With that 30,000 naira, you can pay your rent, you can eat food, you can do everything, and you will still be left with a disposable income of 15,000 naira. When I relocate from Canada, guess where I'm going to move to? Onitsha. Because by the time I collect my 500 million from you, and you, I'll maybe get chieftaincy title, and I'll be able to even set up a grant for funding RECP projects. And my own grant, I will not request for any interest payments. Okay, so if you say that's good, it means that you have to pay me the 500 million. All right, so net coverage ratio is an interesting one that bankers use. So if they say, okay, it's only 15,000 naira that you use to, that you spend on yourself, they can then say that would help us to size the loan. Would only give you a loan that all you will need to repay every month will be 15,000 naira or less. That's the way, and the way they decide that through this fancy ratio here called debt service coverage ratio. Another ratio sometimes is that there are loans that you collect where the repayment of principal is going to be bullet, and will be like what that means is that it will be at the end of the tenure. You will not be doing principal and interest repayments. There are loans like that. And so there's something called interest coverage ratio. All that one checks is that are you able to cover your interest payment every month? Right, that's another ratio they use. But there are tons of ratios. I will not get into free cash flows to firm, free cash flow to equity. When we come back, we'll come and reveal all the secrets. Whether you are going to BOI, or you are going to World Bank, or you are going to a private equity firm, we'll do revelations. Now, I should mention that I'm not trying to make you people accountants. I'm not trying to make you financial professionals. Because this aunt is already looking at me that if you make these people accountants, what job will I now be doing? What I want to try to help you to do is to at least be able to engage in meaningful conversations with your accountants, in meaningful conversations with your bankers, so that if the banker comes to you and you walk in confidently and say, I need 100 million, if the banker say I can only give you 90 million, you say no, I have calculated my debt service coverage ratio and I'm able to get 100 million. In fact, I calculated this before requesting for the 100 million naira from you. All right. We didn't see the slide yesterday, was why I stayed there for a minute. And then we spoke about risk identification. We said there are different types of risk. It can run from technical to regulatory risk. For example, there's potential for budget overruns or inability to recover costs as planned. That's an example of a financial risk that might happen. And what does that mean? An example might be that the project payback then is delayed due to higher than expected capex. I said in Lagos that there are only very few nuclear plants that were delivered on time and on budget. In fact, a lot of nuclear plants that have been built in the world, not only are they not delivered on time, they almost blow their budgets by 2x or 3x of the initial planned budget. It's why this budgeting thing that we talk about with projects. So we're talking about the different kind of risks that we have, and we said that there could be financial risk, and so you want to think through and put buffers into your cost estimation. Look at, we included mitigation strategy in there. So in this case, we said that we'll ensure that there are detailed cost estimates, there are conservative assumptions, there will be financial buffers. Let me explain this thing to you. I have seen people who currently, they make 50 million naira per month. That's what the business makes. When they do their financial projections, they will put there that they will start making 500 million per month, so that they can go to my auntie there and go and collect 3 billion naira. I'm sorry, what did you say? They would redress to look as if, but they are not there. Thankfully, BOI that you are going to, I trust my bros, is a very thorough and detailed person. He's been doing this work for some time. So when you come with those your fancy looking models and you say that you would have 100% growth every month and your cost will not increase at all, this is how we'll be removing it one by one for you like this. We'll be removing it. By the time it's done with you, the only thing you would have, which is the realistic thing, is 1% growth per month. You see, because we said yesterday that it is better to under-promise and over-deliver than to over-promise and under-deliver. Because you see, this money that we want to give to you is not grant. This money you still have to pay. So why not collect the one that you can go to bed and sleep and be paying? Don't be like that guy that has 30,000 naira that will now go and collect loan that will be paying back 50,000 naira every month, and will now see that Lapo is chasing you. Why won't Lapo chase you when you've collected money that you cannot pay back? And you know, it's not even that, okay, business went bad. You knew from day one that you cannot repay this money. But you want to carry G-Wagon to village during Christmas. Lapo will chase you. DOI will chase you. In fact, even police will chase you. All right. We said that we call these other considerations, but really actually we shouldn't call it other considerations, that environmental and social risks are also critical elements of business plan, especially because we're talking RECP and IEE plans. We said, we gave the example of the company that, they bought the land, they were ready, site, everything already, the plan drawn, everything ready to go, only for them to get there and the community said no. And we said that, our auntie yesterday called us what that kind of cost is called. Said it is sunk cost, money that has gone into thin air. We do not want to spend sunk costs, things like this. All right. I promised that we were going to run through this, and now we've gone through it. Now we're getting to the exciting part. Before we get started, are you guys sure that just 2 people on the table is enough? Because what we're about to do is a case study, and we're going to be in our table groups, and we'll be working on the case study. So if you think that 2 people are not enough, you might want to mix up. If not, I am ready to go. They are largely small companies, so we would say a mid-sized bakery or a mid-sized juice company. But this is industrial energy efficiency, and so we want to, the case study has to focus on a large industrial company. So this is a textile company called GreenWeaves Textiles Limited. This is one of Nigeria's largest textile manufacturing companies. They operate a 24-hour production line. They want to make all the money in the world. A 24-hour production line with over 600 employees. This company, what they produce is dyed cotton fabrics. They don't only sell here in Nigeria, they also export these fabrics. Now, they consume a large volume of diesel for steam generation, electricity for motor, and water for dyeing and rinsing processes. They also generate a significant amount of wastewater and heat, which goes unused. Recently, this company came to us and we did free RECP audit for them. And that preliminary RECP audit then came up with multiple recommendations. GreenWeave have now decided to prioritize 1 or 2 RECP opportunities. They want to develop a business case and then seek funding from POI. Here are the RECP opportunities that the audit unveiled. Not only do we have the measures here, we have estimated capital expenditure or estimated cost. We have the estimated annual savings. We have payback period, and we have the environmental impact. Thorough, detailed. What do I want this fantastic class to do? Well, RECP, GreenWeave has engaged us as consultants. This is our own opportunity to make our 500 million. And so what we'll do is to help RECP develop a business, GreenWeave, I beg your pardon, to develop a business plan. We'll start out by writing the problem statement. We'll come and debrief on the problem statement. Next, we'll move on to the solution statement. We'll come and debrief on the solution statement. We'll move on to industry and market context and funding strategy. And after that, we'll talk about the risks that are involved. Now, I do not intend for you to write a business plan from start to finish today. But we will be taking all the tools within our toolkits that I've equipped us with, and we'll be using it to demonstrate that we can actually write a business plan. What do I mean? Looking at this, for example, the first thing we'll do is to write a problem statement. You'd recall those 3 elements that I said are critical that must feature in the problem statement. So in your table groups, you write a problem statement, and then we'll talk about it. We'll see whether you incorporated those 3 elements into it. After that, we'll move on to solution statements and on and on. Any question? All right, so we'll start with problem statements now. So you can go to problem statements. So your time starts now. We'll debrief at 10:45. I'm starting with this smile.
These are the issues. Let me try.
All right.
I think for this group,
Please, one class, please.
we actually brainstorm.
Right.
So we share ideas and we were able to arrive at a logical conclusion.
I like that you said we did not argue, it's brainstorm.
Brainstorm.
All right.
And from the case study shown on the board,
Yeah.
I think our problem statement, like you mentioned, we have to state what the challenges are. Then look at the savings that will be derived from it. And so we looked at it, and the statement is actually speaking to the problem faced by this textile company, which has to do with significant energy and resources inefficiency. So, and it's resulting into high operating costs and environmental impact.
Right.
So we look at it.
Sorry, please, one class, please.
We derive our statement based on these three points here.
Yes, sir.
High consumption of diesel and water, unused heat energy that they are unable to conserve. Then we also look at increasing energy costs and regulatory pressure because of the high environmental impact. So looking at the savings based on the available options, we have like 4 options there. So we actually looked at it and prioritized 2 for now. So if you prioritize,
You see that this my bros as I started entering solution. I told you that this table is a cheat code
so
thing.
if we prioritize,
I said focus on problem statement. Now, can you read out your problem statement?
so we are trying to look for the savings
Okay.
that will come out of these solutions that we are trying to offer. Okay, so we look at it and prioritize 2 measures there. So we're looking at minimum savings of about 28 million annually.
Okay. So, can you read out the problem statement? Because the question is that write out a problem statement.
Let me read it out. The textile company.
Which textile? Which one? We are consultants, so there is a definite textile company.
GreenWeaves Textiles Limited.
Yes.
Faces significant energy and water resources inefficiencies,
Great.
resulting into high operating costs and environmental impact.
Great.
That's our problem statement.
Great stuff. Can we please give them a round of applause? So this particular table,
we brainstormed, looked at the pros and cons.
yes.
Then at the end, we came up with the problem statement that the company spends much on diesel due to erratic power supply. They also use a lot of water.
Yes.
And also discovered that the motors were not working efficiently.
Right.
So all this put together will lead to high emissions because of the diesel that is used, and also high operational costs for the company. But for now, we can't really tell the costs that is involved.
We'll get to the cost.
The costs.
So can we read out problem statement? GreenWeaves Textiles Limited faces such and such and such.
Okay.
The same way that we wrote it on the board, on the screen, in that slide of problem statement.
Okay. So GreenWeaves Textiles Limited
Yes.
faces a problem of high cost of diesel due to erratic power supply.
Right.
They also expend a lot of excessive water.
Yeah.
They also waste energy from the energy that is wasted from the heat that is given off in the dyeing unit. Photographer. Then also they spend so much on powers that are not working efficiently. So all this put together leads to high emissions, that's impact on the environment, and high operating costs.
Just had a little discussion because I would say if we want to follow the procedure standard you gave to us yesterday, I feel it's totally a big deal. We just needed to itemize the obvious problem on the screen, and that's all we did. So let me read it out for you. Sorry.
Yeah. Michael said, this thing is not a big deal. Why are you making a big deal out of this? It's not a big deal.
Okay, so GreenWeaves Textiles Limited production processes are faced with high diesel and power consumption, substantial wastewater generation, and significant heat emissions. Now, this inefficiencies not only inflate operational costs, but also contribute to environmental disintegration, compromising the company's sustainability goals and reputation. So the specific issues here are high energy consumption, wastewater generation, heat emissions. And now our goal is to reduce diesel and power consumption by implementing energy efficiency.
Goal?
Yeah.
Inside our problem statement.
You said we should describe the problem, right?
Yes.
Look at the operational cost, right? And then the cost of problem statement. We should also possibly state recommendations or solutions for it. The company currently spends about 250 million naira annually on diesel and other operational costs. Installing solar hybrid, upgrading to variable speed motors and heat recovery, waste water reduce system would reduce the operational cost of the company by about 35%, which is about 87.5 million naira annually.
I am going to force you to choose at most 2 out of these 4 opportunities. It comes down to you to decide based on the prioritization framework that we learned yesterday. Which 2? And I promise you it doesn't have to be 2, it might just be 1. You select 1 or 2 that you propose to GreenWeaves to take. Now, some people will only focus on cost. Some other people will only focus on environmental impact. Some people will focus on just payback period. It really depends on whatever approach you want to take. And some people like Michael, who know how to do over syllables, would consider everything, you know. Some people, and in fact, I allow you to make your own assumptions. Make assumptions outside of what's on the board. I should not be telling you this, but one assumption you can make, for example, is some people would say that because a particular item on there is expensive, that's why they will not do it. You're allowed to make the assumption that GreenWeaves has enough money. Some people will choose the cheapest thing on there. You're allowed to make the assumption that GreenWeaves does not have sufficient money, and that's why you've decided to choose the cheapest. But you must tell us, you know, why you chose what you chose and what assumptions drove it. For example, if for you energy use is what you've identified as the problem, it naturally follows that the solution you'll be selecting will be one that is aligned with energy